Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced by a British biased bloke with a massive Swede full of very questionable wheel knowledge. Broadcast live on YouTube and after the fact on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We have a good old natter about each and every Grand Prix of the season. My name's Tommo, let's talk about it. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world. Whether you're here live on YouTube, whether you're here after the fact on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're consuming TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, my name is Tommo. And today we're going to talk all about the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix. Welcome Ben, Avrihal, IBK, MGT, Yamafat, Kotesh. Sorry, my pronunciation is off today. IBK, Harrow, Nico, Villager, Maze, Lola, and the rest of you. It's a pleasure to be back. The second in a triple header, European triple header at the start of this 2025. Still kind of at the start. This is round 8 of 24. So this will be a third after this race is done. Will be a third of the way through the season. And Monaco is one that often splits opinion, doesn't it? But there is a crucial change to this year's race. A mandatory two-stop, something I've been banging the drum of for years and years. Literally, if you've been here for the almost 6 years I've been live on YouTube for, which is pretty crazy, talking about F1. And yeah, I mean, look, if it doesn't go well, then I'm going to look like an absolute muppet. But, I mean, I do anyway, so no change there. And fingers crossed, a track that isn't clearly suitable for the size of modern F1 cars and is very much reliant on crazy weather or, exciting Saturday. Typically, although Saturday can be kind of spoilt if people shunt and bring out a red flag and ruin people's laps, but that's besides the point, I suppose. It can be a banger on Saturday, typically is a banger on Saturday, typically a bit of a dud on Sunday, but fingers crossed, a mandatory two-stop, the additional unpredictability that chucks into things. It puts more onus on the pit stops, the teams. The teams are going to be, I'm sure the pit crews are feeling a bit sweatier than usual going into this weekend, right? You've got a mandatory two-stop at Monaco, and you know how much that can hurt your race, can destroy your race. A bad pit stop, even a half a second delay, can make a massive difference. But similarly, the other way around, if you can nail a 2-second flat, if not less, and that 1.8 we got from McLaren, wasn't it last year, I think, is the record, or the year before, can't remember. It can make all the difference, right? You can really make up for it, and the pit crew and the strategy team are going to play a disproportionately large role in your outcome this weekend. But also the driver's got to do the job on Saturday in quali. So, you know what? Look, 24 races, Monaco is super unique, super historic. I've always felt like there's a place for it on the grid, especially with 24 races. Yes, it's not balls to the wall, overtake central on a Sunday, but it still can be, I think, a very entertaining race. I really do. I really hope that this can make a difference. If you are here on YouTube live, I did put a poll in the live chat. How much of a difference do you expect the two-stop to make to the quality of the race? 280 of you have voted so far. 18% of you think it's going to be much better. 68% a bit better. 13% no difference. And 1% of you, there's one of you out there who think the two-stop's going to somehow make the Monaco Grand Prix worse, which I struggle. I mean, I guess if your driver's leading and then they have to pit and they have a bad pit stop and then they don't win, I guess that's the one way it could be worse, right? If Alex Albon's leading this race and Williams give him a dodgy pit stop, I will suddenly be not endorsing a two-stop anymore. Oh, brilliant, honestly. But no, we'll see. We will see. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but please let me know your thoughts in that poll if you are here live on YouTube. Right, let's get into the meat and bone, shall we? Round 8, Monaco. I'm a very lucky boy. I'm going to be there for a bit of this weekend. Just a Saturday. So, and that's the best day to be at Monaco. So hopefully it doesn't rain. I'm very excited to be there. I'm not telling you why yet, but you will know soon enough. So first time in Monaco, any recommendations, suggestions? I don't know. I think it's just going to be chaos. I'm just going to be kind of making it up as I go along. So that's going to be fun. And look, I mean, the weather, I've had a little look at the weather reports. It seems like it's going to be okay. I'm not expecting rain, but it's going to be kind of high high teens, like maybe 20 degrees, something like that in terms of temperature. We know that it's a bit of a microclimate in Monaco with the big mountains. You can get very, very sudden weather snaps that can come in, and the rain can fall, and you know, stuff can go wrong. So who knows, right? It's you've got to be prepared as a team to go into a Monaco Grand Prix to expect the unexpected. And with the two-stop, I would like to see a dry weekend, not only because I'm going to be there. I mean, I'm not going to be there on Sunday, so that doesn't really matter to me. I would like dry weather just because I think that's going to really then test this two-stop rather than having rain come into it. Because the rain creates multiple stops at Monaco when it goes from dry to wet, you know. So I'd like just dry conditions so we can get a real test. And also I would like no lap one shenanigans like last year where Checo and the Haas all came together. And then it basically turned it into a zero-stop race, which is, of course, well, we all remember who won because the vibes were immaculate. So, yeah, I'd like to see that. No one shunt in lap one or early on. No big shunts, basically, in the race. Say, if you're going to have a big shunt, like, do it in qualifying, go in hell for leather for a... Not a first Q1 lap, Yuki, by the way. Don't do that. Don't go hell for leather on your first Q1 lap. Q3 lap, if you shunt, you know what, game's the game, it happens, you push into those margins, there's no margin for error at Monaco, but let's at least get a proper test of this two-stop, because I do think it's going to help, but the proof will be in the pudding, right, of how much of a difference it actually makes. So, remains to be seen. Reece getting payment from Aston Martin for the other day. Well, listen, I'm still holding on to my Aston Martin shares, so... inadvertently, I guess, if I prop them, then maybe that'll move the needle somewhat. Yes, so round 8, Monaco. Let's have a look at it. Circuit de Monaco in Monaco. 3.34 kilometres long, 78 laps, considerably more than most other Grand Prix on the calendar. Big undulation. You've got to wonder, you know, I've talked about this in videos in the past. There's plenty of content out there on YouTube, plenty of people talking about if there's a way or if there are any ways you can change Monaco to make it more suitable for wheel-to-wheel racing. Now, obviously going into 2026, these cars are going to get a bit smaller. Is it 10 centimetres narrower and 20% shorter? Correct me if I'm wrong, live chat. I think that's the change in terms of the overall dimensions of the car, which doesn't sound like much. And to be honest, it'll be interesting. Monaco 2026, when we actually see these new cars on the track, will they visually look like they can get a bit more racy? You know, fingers crossed, right? And you would like to also think that going into 26, these cars are getting a bit smaller than they are now. And F1, surely, you know, going into the future, into the 2030s, 40s, 50s, they won't make the same mistake of making these cars just bigger and bigger and bigger. Fingers crossed anyway, right? Because I hope that the cars that we have right now are the biggest that they're ever going to be ever again. And they only get smaller or, I guess, the same and incremental drops from then. I hope so. I hope that's the cause. ATZJ, what's undulation? So undulation, it's kind of up and down, right? So you're going uphill from turn 1 up to turn 2, super steep. I mean, I want to try and walk up there, see how steep it is, test my legs, get some cardio in. And then, so you're super uphill, and then you come down, obviously, from through the tunnel, turn 9 into 10 and 11. That chicane, you're kind of going downhill quite steep there. So, yeah, that obviously, and even turn 4, where you've got the little bump in the road, so you have to move. So this is a track with so much character, and I think that's why I, as a fan, am so desperate for them to find a way to make Monaco work in this current generation, because there's no other track like it. There's no other track with the character, with the, you know, they could tarmac that bump out, but they don't, you know, because it's different. It makes it special. It's unique. You see that line cars have always taken coming out of turn 4 and into turn 5, and it's like, you know, you look at the history and they all take that line because you can't hit the bump. You know what I mean? There's something precious and special about that. And yes, these cars are too big. especially for Monaco. Yes, the race ends up being a dud so often on a Sunday, but if there's a way to make it work, please, we need to, I think, try and make this work. And not being funny, right? You know, F1 is ultimately all the competitors, well, the vast majority of the competitors anyway. There's only a few, you know, you look at Lewis, you look at Esteban, but the vast majority of the people driving the cars are born of privilege. This is the most privileged Grand Prix out there in terms of the spectacle, in terms of the yachts, in terms of the glitz and the glamour and all that, right? So if any circuit has the budget and the infrastructure, and if they really could, you know, I think they could make changes if they really, really wanted to preserve this. I've talked in the past, you know, maybe it's moving, and I feel like you would have to build, right? But of course, Monaco is in, you know, there's a lot of man-made infrastructure there in Monaco, right? You could maybe find a way of moving that turn 10, 11 chicane kind of back, so then you've got more of a run coming out of the tunnel, which means it gives you more time to get alongside and maybe make a move. Does that make it too fast? Does that make that run down from turn 8 to turn 10 too quick and too dangerous? Maybe it does. Maybe that's the reason that hasn't happened. And there's been various talks about other ways of doing it, but you are restricted. So again, having a 2-stop is a way of adding some unpredictability, input from the pit crew, input from the strategists that should hopefully make Monaco a bit more exciting on a Sunday. That's the fingers crossed thing. Will the tyres necessitate to... Dane, thank you. Dane made a really good point in the live chat and I just completely bodged what you've said, Dane. I do apologise. Will the tyres necessitate... That was the word that tripped me up. Necessitate. It's a good word. A 2-stop, or is it flat out for 3 stints? So the thing is, and we saw this from Daniel Ricciardo when he was running. Didn't he lose Did he lose the turbo, or did he lose a cylinder in the engine? Or did he lose his energy? I can't remember. When Daniel won the race eventually, and he was running with a slow car. Like, you can go really... And remember when Fernando held up the entire field, and you saw that track map over the top of Fernando with everyone behind him. You can be really slow. Like, you need a massive... You know, talking about in Suzuka, it was that was at MG UK. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was MG UK that he lost. So Daniel still won the race, right? Talk about in Suzuka, Andrea Stella was saying, you know, the McLaren boys would have needed an 8/10 delta to Max in order to realistically try and get a move done on Max, right? To even try, you'd need an 8/10 advantage. Around Monaco, you need like seconds of advantage in terms of pace to be able to realistically try and put a move into turn 1. I mean, occasionally you see some pretty leery moves into turn 18. 12 if you can get alongside out the chicane and the car in front's really struggling on its tyres, and obviously turn 10 if you can make a lunge. None of these are clear and obvious overtaking opportunities at all, and that is the problem. There's not even one, really, at Monaco. There's not even one. If Monaco just had one, like Imola's got one, really, like one proper over... Yeah, you can size up a move by, you know, like Lando did on George. He made the overtake later on, but if we just had one, that would be great. We don't, unless you change the track, but maybe making the car small. Because, to be honest, Formula E around here, you know, it is pretty good. It's one of the better Formula E races, I think, around Monaco. Formula E around Mexico is good. Formula E around Monaco is good because these cars are a lot smaller. Dirty air isn't so much a factor because, you know, those wings sticking out the Formula E cars are not generating downforce. Not meaningful downforce anyway. So, yeah, I think Monaco can be saved, and I'm just really hoping this weekend that it's enough. But last year it was definitely enough for a certain Mr. Charles Leclerc, wasn't it? Who finally won his home race, the Monegasque man, after many a time, many an opportunity. Just terrible luck around this place for so long, even in junior formulas as well. Just had no fortune at Monaco. He had made mistakes. And finally, Bosch. Finally, he got it done. Charlie boy. The vibes were something else, weren't they? They were something else. Ahead of Oscar Piastri, who pushed him all the way. He was right up his gearbox the entire race, but Charles got it done. And Carlos Sainz, top 3, lovely jubbly. Again, an incredibly boring race, but Charles Leclerc winning at home kind of saved the vibes at the end. But it was so dull because, again, we got a 0 stop because everyone was able to pit because of the red flag. Not pit. Everyone came in for the red flag, so everyone could put on a new set of boots and just drive the whole race on a 1 stop. That was it was good. It was good vibes. It was not a good race. It was not a good race. Right, okay. As I said last time, I'm going to kind of alternate in these streams. So when I've got the split screen up, I'm going to be just kind of getting through the meat and the bones of the race. And when I go full screen, I'm going to interact with you lot a bit more. First of all, a few live chats. Thank you, Evan, for the super chat. Do appreciate it. Turn the weekend into a time trial. Ooh, here we go. Evan's got a new idea. Qualifying is the best part of Monaco. Just have them run 2 hot laps each on Sunday. Fastest gets the points. So just completely veto the race entirely, Evan. Look, I do think Saturday could do with some work at Monaco. Saturday qualifying at Monaco is great. The only thing that can spoil it is if people crash, if someone does a Nico Rosberg when, oh no, he went wide at turn whatever it was and no one could set a lap. Oh no, Monaco opens itself up to drivers being a bit cheeky. Sometimes, maybe Perez had his little spin. That was a bit weird, but whatever. I still think one-shot quali at Monaco would be really good. I would like to see... I think a good balance is to have a normal Q1, normal Q2, or just have Q1, because timing might be a thing. Have Q1 as is, a 20-minute session, 18 minutes, whatever it is, but only the top 10 progress. So the bottom 10 all get knocked out, and then you take that top 10 and do one shot, and you do it in reverse order of where they finished. So, for example, if you go quickest in the Q1 session, then you go out last in the one shot, because then you get the most track evolution, because that's the big critique one of the biggest critiques people have about one shot is track evolution, and that it's not fair, even though there's so many things that aren't fair about normal qualifying. But I'll give you that. Track evolution is the thing. So then you incentivize people to try not just make the top 10, but finish as high as they can in Q1 to then get a later slot out in one shot. And if it rains in the middle of one shot, it rains. Mother Nature decided, you know what, I'm going to mix this all up, and we'll get I was going to say Kevin Magnussen on pole, because obviously that's what he did in Brazil, but obviously he's not in the sport anymore, which is a shame. But someone, bought a letter on pole. Love to see it. But yeah, turn weekends into time trial. We can't lose the race though, Evan. I think I do agree that I think qualifying is the best part, and I still think there's more they could do with that. But to entirely lose the race, I think mandating a 2-stop, making these cars a bit smaller, and trying to do something to the track, if possible, to just make at least one semi-decent overtaking opportunity. That's what I think, Evan. But this, I'd just as a one-off, sod it. Yeah, time trial Monaco, do it. Thank you, Raphael, as well. Max will win it due to a good strategy, and also because it's Max. McLaren will fumble due to strategy. Ferrari will Ferrari due to Ferrari. Oh, Ferrari, why? Ferrari. You know what, as well, obviously, they won last year, P1, P3, with Charles and Carlos, but it feels like they've lost that slow speed performance that they had last year as well, where they've changed this car, and that used to be their kind of strong suit. They've got small turbo, good traction out of slow speed corners, just aero wise, it was really working well in the slow speed, and this year it doesn't seem to be the case. So I am concerned for Ferrari, not gonna lie. Max, look, if you can put your money on any driver to clutch up in qualifying, it would have not lost you all. My internet just dipped again, because of course it did. If you can rely on anyone to clutch up, it's Max. I do I'm kind of a bit concerned, obviously, Red Bull strategy-wise, or pit stops, should I say, more than strategy, because Red Bull have had a few uncharacteristic pit stop errors, haven't they, as of late? And maybe that's to do Jonathan Wheatley leaving, and there's been a lot of turnover of staff seemingly at Red Bull as of late. So maybe that's what I'm concerned about for Red Bull, I guess. Mandating a two-stop, super high pressure on these pit crews, all of them. But where Red Bull have wobbled a bit on the pit stops as of late, that could end up hurting them. So I feel like, actually, to be honest, Ferrari's pit stops have been pretty mint this year. Have been like pretty good. I think it's Ferrari, McLaren are very good pit stop wise, and I think the Racing Bulls are pretty good as well in the pit. So yeah, perhaps that makes a difference in the end. But so I wouldn't say, but I mean, strategy and pit stop are kind of two different things, aren't they? And thank you, Dorian, as well, for the super chat. Do appreciate it. Yeah, if anything's lagging, just give it a little refresh, and hopefully that should sort you out. Harry, hear me out. Make Monaco a sprint weekend. Oh, I don't know about that, Harry. I mean, it would mean we get 2 qualifying sessions. And qualifying is the best part about Monaco, but it would also mean we get 1.5 boring races. I mean, unless you mandate, maybe it's like you have a sprint at Monaco, but you mandate a 2-stop in the main race and you mandate a 1-stop in the sprint. Maybe. And in the sprint, you can just use 2 sets of C6s, the softest compounds. You don't have to use different compounds. You just have to come in and pit and change your tyres. It might seem a bit artificial, and I know that will be, used as a critique. And yes, it's not maybe the most elegant solution, but if it makes for better racing, and it's the same rules for everyone, and it's not too gimmicky. That's not too. I mean, there's some gimmick. You can have some gimmicks. You could have Joker laps. You could do some craziness, but I don't think mandating a 1-stop in a sprint or mandating a 2-stop in a main race around Monaco is that gimmicky. So I don't hate it, Harry. I don't hate it. I don't hate it as much as I did when I initially saw that your live chat. I was like, ugh, and I was like, oh, actually, maybe mandate a 1-stop for the sprint. Maybe. Peel, the fact that driving as slow as possible in an F1 race is a legitimate strategy at Monaco completely negates the idea that it's a race at all. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. And again, I think making these cars a little bit smaller, will it make a world of difference? No, but this is a sport of fine margins. So maybe tightening up these dimensions of these cars by that much will make a difference around Monaco, hopefully. But I think a 2-stop will make more of a difference, more of a difference. Thank you, Yo-Yo, as well. Do it Bathurst style. Here we go. Split the field halfway via practice times in FP3. One half goes out slower in Q1, other half goes out faster as Q2. Top 10 from the 2 qualies go out for a 1-shot shootout. I mean, I like it. I think it would be, yeah, you definitely need to kind of, you don't want something that's too complicated, because especially a lot of the more casual audience will get confused and not understand what's going on. But I mean, if it works at Bathurst, then why can't it work at Monaco? Awkward Leon, Tomo. Monaco should be a 3-stop and soft only. 3-stop? 3? I mean, that seems a bit excessive, not going to lie. If you want good racing at Monaco, just watch F2 and F3. I mean, Edwin, you know what? That's not a terrible shout. Raphael, don't you dare give me hope for Ferrari. Look, I'm only saying that they have very competent pit crew. That's all I'm saying, okay? That's all I'm saying. Mario Kart power-ups would be a vibe. Absolutely. Less practice equals more unpredictable grid. And we would get that. You know what? Like, this sprint suggestion, you would only get FP1. But then again, I suppose there's a reason that teams don't bring upgrades to Monaco. There's a reason that's typically, anyway. It's because it's so reliant on the mechanical base of your car. You just chuck on as much aero as you can. The engine's not too. Hence why the Alpines should hopefully, especially in Pierre Gasly's hands with his experience, should hopefully be a factor in potentially Q3 and top 10 this weekend. So yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for practice, like too much practice, but I don't think at Monaco, in my opinion, that too much practice is so much of a problem. I think, around a track like that, you need to give the drivers time to like build and grow into confidence behind the wheel, right? This is obviously a confidence track for qualifying completely. And if you don't give them that time, I don't know. I feel like I'm not too concerned about being too much practice at Monaco. I'm not so sure. Just use the Lego cars. I mean, maybe that is just use the Lego cars at Monaco. Happy days. Job done. Rain on quali forecast looking fun. Is it? Okay. So maybe it will rain in qualifying. I mean, again, I want the race to be dry. If it rains in qualifying, I'll get a bit damp and it will be exciting. And who knows who will be on pole. But yeah, as long as we've got a dry race on Sunday, then we get a proper test of this two-stop. That's what I would like to see. That is what I would like to see above and beyond. Thank you, Dorian, as well for the super chat. Teams should work with the FIA to come up with a smaller, same car for all this weekend. Every driver on the same level, skill on the line above all. So you're basically a spec. Dorian wants to see a spec chassis, a spec car, exclusively for use around Monaco. Yeah, I mean, look, I think, I just think make the F1 cars smaller and just mandate a two-stop and then try and create a slightly better overtaking opportunity. Because you only need one. Like, if you have one overtaking opportunity, that you don't need to have a 3-second delta to be able to actually make work, then you only need one. There's 78 laps in Monaco. There's plenty of laps. So you're going through that one overtaking opportunity 78 times. You know. We'll see. Anyway, right. Plenty of suggestions there. I'm sure we all know how to fix Monaco, right? We all know how to fix Monaco. Oh, let's crack on, shall we then? Let's crack on. Reflecting, first of all, quali head-to-heads so far this season. 9 qualifying sessions, comparable qualifying sessions. We're looking at out of 30 because, of course, sprint qualies, there's 6 of them, 24 normal qualies, and there's no good reason not to include sprint qualies in the head-to-heads as far as I'm concerned. And these are the gaps. Obviously, Verstappen Tsunoda is by far the biggest, 0.864 of a second. Yuki really hasn't been able to have a clean qualifying so far in the 5 weekends he's had a Red Bull Racing. Hopefully Monaco is the first, although it's a confidence track and that shunt in Imola was tough. Gasly, Colapinto, obviously we've only looked at one delta between the two of them, and Gasly put 0.319 on Colapinto. So that's the gap, but that gap will be a much more volatile one because it's only looking at one quali session versus 9. Alonso Stroll, 0.297, then Russell Antonelli, 0.269, then Hadjar over Lawson, 0.264, Leclerc over Hamilton, 0.2 exactly, Hulkenberg over Bortoleto, 0.148, Ocon over Behrman, 0.135, Piastri over Norris, 0.123, and the closest delta so far in average over qualifying is Albon over Sainz, 0.085. And this, for me, and you got to trust, because I've got a big spreadsheet. All right, I'll show at the end of the year. I'll show you the big spreadsheet of all the numbers. I think this is a more representative thing to look at than head-to-heads. Quali head-to-heads don't tell. Like if you're beating your teammate by half a tenth 24 times in a row, or by a second 24 times in a row, it will still say 24-0. That doesn't tell you all the information you need. This, I think, is what I'm looking at when I'm going to reflect on quali head-to-heads who's been disappointing relative to their teammate, vice versa. I think this is the data to look at, in my opinion. Oh, Carl's just got here. Carl, okay, sorry, everyone. Carl's just got here, so let's just restart the stream. Okay. Welcome to TOMMO'S Race CHINWAG, your favourite Formula 1 podcast produced. Very good, Carl. Very good. I appreciate you, Carl, but not that much, all right? Okay, so driver standings after 7 of 24 rounds so far this season. Piastri 146 points, 13 ahead of his teammate Lando Norris. Big weekend this for Lando, I think, because if Lando can put it on pole and win this race, I think that would do wonders for him. I really do. Like, for his championship fight, clutching up pole position, he's got the pace in him, absolutely. Can he clutch up in this high pressure moment? Can he get it done? Because I think if he can, not only does he close the gap to his teammate in the driver's title, but also I think that confidence, that momentum would be huge for him. So watch this space on that one. Max Verstappen 124. So the top three split by 22 points. And then Russell 99, still hanging on to the coattails is Russell. He's just about hanging on in there. The Mercedes upgrade in Imola just didn't seem to do. The tyre management just still was a problem for Mercedes. It's a real shame. But as soon as the temps are high, they're just nowhere. You know, when it's Vegas, George will win probably very comfortably. But yeah, I mean, we need a Finnish Grand Prix, a Norwegian Grand Prix. We need an Antarctican Grand Prix. We need a Argentinian Grand Prix that's right at the bottom in the south where it's cold. This is what Mercedes need, right? They need what's the thing when they have the race of champions? That's it. When they drive on the ice most of the time. That's what Mercedes need. Mercedes Race of Champions F1 edition would be clutch. So yeah, but keep banging on that door, George. I'm sure he'll win a race eventually. And then Leclerc, Hamilton 61, 53 points respectively. I think it's I'm not expecting much from Ferrari this weekend. Not gonna lie. Antonelli, Albon, Ocon, Stroll is your top 10, and we've still got Alonso, Lawson, Doohan, Bortoletto and Colapinto on nil points. Team championships, it's a wrap for McLaren, but all of these positions do matter in terms of prize money, in terms of aerodynamic testing regulations. So yeah, I mean, it's basically P1 in drivers. None of the other positions actually carry any merit, but these do. So yeah, I mean, Mercedes, Red Bull, it's going to be, hopefully Yuki can find something, because you know Max is going to extract everything out of this Red Bull every weekend, but hopefully from Red Bull's point of view, Yuki can find something, because otherwise I think Antonelli's only going to... He's had some tricky weekends. He had a lot of pressure on him in Imola. Huge amount of pressure for an 18-year-old. So I think Kimi's just going to keep getting quicker and quicker. Hopefully Yuki can find something. It's not looked great so far, but hopefully there's something there. Hopefully. Ferrari 114 as well. I mean, look, maybe they'll find something. Apparently more of their upgrades are coming in Spain for Ferrari. So the race after this one, after Monaco round 9, and obviously the flexi-wing changes as well, could mix things up. The thing is, the margins are so tight that I do believe that, you know, flexi-wing tightening up and an upgrade from Ferrari could make a difference. It actually could, logically, it could be enough, because the percentage gaps between cars are so tight. But yeah, we'll see. Sauber still lasts on 6, Alpine on 7. I mean, that you know what, like, Haas, you know, either bang or clang, didn't they? Haas are the most inconsistent, yet they're still 6th. They're ahead of Aston, Racing Bulls, Alpine and Sauber are Haas. But it feels like right now that they are probably the worst car. I mean, Ocon had a horrific weekend, didn't he, in Imola? But there you go. Game's the game sometimes. That's just the way it happens. Doing pole at the Argentinian Grand Prix. Oh, God. Well, less said about that, the better. Right, okay, so bangers and clangers time. Shall we move on? Shall we predict this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix? Now, we've got a few changes going on here in terms of two-stopper, in terms of upgrades that were put on cars last weekend that now the teams would have had time to reflect learn, understand what worked, what didn't. The chance of nothing unlikely happening is in itself unlikely. I often bring this one out when I'm about to say something pretty crazy, pretty ludicrous. But what I said is true. Who would have predicted, I don't know, Ocon to win in Hungary in 21? Who would have predicted double Alpine podium in Brazil last year? Someone might have. Someone might have. My race winner for the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix. Oh Lord, McFillin. Oh Lord, the anticipation. What's he going to say? Is Fernando Alonso. Look, hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Aston bought some serious pace last weekend in Imola with their upgrade. Both cars into Q3. I see the chat filling up. Hear me out, okay? Aston bought some big upgrade, big pace. Should have got more from the race. We're very unfortunate to not. Calm down, everyone, all right? Calm down. I think now they'll have come away from Imola, learned what they can, apply it to the car for this weekend. I think the Aston car is going to be quick around Monaco. I'm anticipating that. Alonso, around Monaco in 23, when he had the car underneath him, whoa, that was a hell of a quali sesh. He should have won that race. It was crazy. Alonso's got his head screwed on better than anyone in F1, okay? If it rains, if there's strategy, if there's two-stop strategy going on, if there's a game to be played, Fernando will play it. I can absolutely, genuinely, in my heart, I can see this happen. I can see it. I can see it. I can see it happening. I can see Fernando Alonso winning this race. I promise you I can. I promise you. I know. He doesn't have a single point right now. I get that. Because then the final thing is a certain Mr. Adrian Newey is going to be on the pit wall in Aston Martin gear for the first time this year. I feel like the stars are aligning here. I feel like Adrian's rocking up. He's waited for his moment. It's right now, right? We got the upgrade on the car that I've been helping out with on my lunch breaks. Genuinely, that's what he's been doing. And then he's going to sit there with his notepad doing sketches for the 26 car and just leaning in on the old strategy, being like, pit him now, box him now. And Fernando Alonso is going to win the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix. You heard it here first. And look, you. The thing is, right? I like to think I'm a visionary, Jammer. I do. And look, if this inadvertently drags the Aston Martin stock price up, then so be it. Call this market manipulation all you like. Come on, like, look. The thing is as well, right? All of your live chat messages calling me crazy are going to be set in stone, right? And when this happens, when we do our post race on Sunday evening, the smug, watch it happen, okay? Oh, David, if Alonso wins, you get Martin Brundle's OBE. Do you reckon Martin will hand it over? You saw it coming. And thank you, Clorox, as well. You don't need the wild takes to keep engagement. Let me help with the bills. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's good. That's good. You got me there. My engagement bait. Look. Watch it happen. All right? Watch Fernando Alonso win this race. Can't wait for him to get knocked out in Q1. Don't you dare. Yes. But what about you lot? Well, 1,120 of you, 23 of you voted. Thank you very much for voting. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just passed 333,333 subscribers, which is a milestone. So thank you for subscribing if you have already. If you haven't, subscribe, because then you will see my community posts where I post the polls so you can get involved. Also on Twitter at TOMMO'S, although I'm a bit less active on there because Twitter's going to Twitter, you know what I mean? And then you can let me know what you think. Now, 1,123 is a very decent sample size. And your race winner for the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix is Oscar Piastri. 30%. Boring. If you know that meme, you know that meme. 30% of you went Oscar Piastri. 22% Max Verstappen. 12% Lance Stroll. There you go. See? 12% of you see the light. Wrong driver, but you know what? Fine. 12% of you. You call me 12% of you went Stroll. Race win. And 12% Lando Norris. And I think based off this, you can probably predict who you've gone for banger drive as well. But for me, I've gone Pierre Gasly. I think the Alpine pace deficit in the engine does not hurt them as much around Monaco than it does in other tracks. I think there's a bit of an energy deployment issue with that car as well. Like it just doesn't seem to work so well in the race. But in qualifying, Gasly's got that clutch gene in him, I think. And I think a Q3 for Gasly. I think points for Gasly. Maybe even close to podium Gasly. I could absolutely see that. If Fernando can win the race, then Gasly can get on the podium. Sod it. Why not? So yeah, Pierre Gasly, I think he's going to have a banger drive this weekend in his Alpine. And you lot, of course, you think Lance Stroll is. 16% of you went Lance. 15% Charles Leclerc. 15% Fernando Alonso. See? Don't call me crazy when 15% of you go with Fernando Alonso. Lance Stroll, 16, fine. 15% of you went Fernando Alonso. You almost gave Fernando banger drive, all right? So don't call me crazy, all right? Don't call me crazy. You call me engagement. Your engagement. This is engagement bait from you lot, right? Don't accuse me of something that you're guilty of. Oh, I love it. And then 7% Carlos Sainz in his Williams. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. He feels like he's up to speed in that car now, and he's probably still got a bit more performance to find, which is good for Williams because Alex is doing a great job, but I think an all-firing Carlos Sainz can do a just as good, if not better job. I mean, I think he can do a better job. Carlos Sainz is so good. And this is the kind of race, if it gets a bit strategic, I think Carlos needs to trust his instincts and just, direct the team and make the calls himself because, we know that Carlos has got that dog in him. Absolutely. And he's been very unlucky this year. No, he absolutely has, Reina. He absolutely has. But hopefully not this time out in Monaco. Fingers crossed. Lawrence Stroll sub to Tomo confirmed. I wonder who gave that £10,000 super chat earlier on today. Okay, my clanger driver. I've gone with Yuki Tsunoda. Sorry, but look, I think it's a confidence track. The car's tricky. He's clearly not having a great time with it. And to have a shunt like that in Imola where you've pushed too hard, maybe he's learnt his lesson. The problem I have for Yuki, right, is because he's had that shunt, what he either does is the same again in Monaco, in which case he over pushes and puts it in a wall, or, which I think is, and this second thing I think is more likely, what I actually think Yuki's going to do is leave a bit more margin because he's had a big shunt in Imola. He can't afford to have another big shunt. And then leaving that bit of margin is going to knock him out in Q1. Like that. That's what I see happening. That's what I just... And you could say the same about Colapinto, to be fair. But I just feel like, when you're in that Red Bull, that top car, Colapinto knows his seat, of course, his seat's safe and secured for the rest of the season. Let's not pretend otherwise. So I think that, Yuki, that the pressure, it's going to be really tough for him to handle. And I really hope this isn't the case, but logically, I've got to just try and be like, right, what I think is actually going to happen? And I see Yuki leaving too much margin. I see him tripping up. Yeah, under pushes and comes up short. So, sorry, Yuki. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't know. Banger team for me this weekend, obviously. Oh no, sorry, clanger team, clanger driver. I've fallen off. He fell off. Your clanger driver is Franco Colapinto. I jumped ahead because I wasn't interested in your terrible opinions. I'm joking. Your opinions are just as bad as mine, all right? 34% of you go Franco Colapinto for clanger driver, 10% Liam Lawson, 9% Yuki Tsunoda, 9% Lando Norris. Yeah, I mean, I understand Franco getting the shout for the same reasons that Yuki did. You've just come off a big crash in Imola. You don't want to do the same again. And obviously less experience, right? He had a poor race, Colapinto, as well. Was understandably, I get it, but it was still objectively a bad race, unfortunately. Lawson got unlucky in qualifying. Didn't really make any progress in the race. I still feel like Liam's still not rebounded fully yet, and I think where Isaac's been doing such a good job, that's heightened the pressure and the expectation on Liam. Lindblad, we know, he's waiting in the wings, chomping at the bit to get his opportunity as well. So it's a tough situation, I think, for Liam at the minute. And yeah, I mean, look, Lando obviously quali has been a problem for him. So it does track that you would predict Lando to have a poor weekend, because this is so reliant on qualifying and ultimate pace and ultimate confidence in the car, which it feels like Lando doesn't have. But that P2 last weekend, maybe, like, I think he just needs one really good quali where he just hooks it all up, puts it all together. But he needs that moment, and we've not seen it really. Well, we've not seen it enough this year. But I think if he has that moment, and if he can do it in Monaco as well, then I think that really does define the rest of his season. Honestly, I do. And then banger team for me this weekend. I'm going with Aston Martin, of course, because if Fernando wins the race, then Aston are going to be banger team. Alpine as well, I'll put them in there although I definitely expect Pierre Gasly to do the heavy lifting at Alpine. Whereas I think Lance can put in a top 10 performance if the Aston is cooking. Definitely, he absolutely can do that. But I'm going Aston. Invest. This is not financial advice, but Aston Martin to the moon. Your banger team is also Aston Martin, which again, don't call me crazy. Don't call me crazy, because you've got Alonso and Stroll in banger driver. You went for Aston Martin as your banger team, 20% of you. So don't call me crazy. 19% McLaren, 18% Williams, 16% Ferrari. So a fairly even spread, to be fair, of votes across the board. But Aston Martin won out for your banger team as well as mine. So well done. And then finally, clanger team for me, it's Ferrari. Sorry, I just as much as I think the pit team are going to pull their weight, I think the lack of low speed performance, I think looking at how slow they were in Imola in qualifying, that race pace wasn't able to fully, show itself because they were starting so far back. So I'm not expecting much from Ferrari this weekend. The horses pranced away. Oof. Ouch. That's tough. I'm going Ferrari, clanger, for me. And you've gone Alpine, 33%, which I think is I think you've missed the mark there. I reckon Pierre's going to cook. But I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. 33% Alpine, 15% of you went Ferrari, 10% Haas, 9% Red Bull Racing. There we go. So those are yours. Piastri, Stroll, Colapinto, Aston, Alpine. And mine, Fernando, Pierre, Yuki, Aston Martin, Ferrari. So I only won the same this time out, which is Aston for banger team. Don't call me crazy. And there we go. Excellent. Okay, we are 50 minutes in, which is actually very long for a pre-race CHINWAG. So let's jump back into the live chat and see what you lot have got to say. Thank you, Haji, for the Japanese yen. Is that yen? I think. Super chat, appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I can't read that, but thank you. Actually, let me hang on. Can I put this into like Google Translate? What am I doing? Thank you, Jake Albono Podium. I mean, I don't know. No, it's not going to happen. Of course, it's not going to happen. Oh wow. Okay. Okay, so Albono Podium, I'm going to say no. Anyone who's here live on YouTube, go to Haji's super chat, copy it, and post it into Translate, and have a little giggle. All right. I'll let you do that yourself. All right. That's a little special Easter egg for anyone who's here live, because only you will know what what Haji said. Oh, love it. Thank you, Cyan, as well. Remember Yuki saying the Rebel racing car suited his style last year. The thing is, like, what are these drivers, these youngsters who are coming through the system? They have to take the opportunity if it's presented to them, and they have to be vying for that opportunity, and they have to believe in themselves that they can do what all these other drivers haven't been able to do and what Max can do. You know, Isaac Hadjar was asked literally after the second Grand Prix of the year, like, if the opportunity came up, would you? And he'd be like, yeah, I'd say I'm ready even if I wasn't. That's literally what he said. So it's kind of I think Yuki as well, taking his career into his own hands. You know, he had to be aggressive with the quotes, the statements about how he would do in that car, because, you know, in the racing balls, you know, with Honda going to Aston Martin and no guarantee around that kind of an opportunity being there for him, I think Yuki kind of had to back himself, and I don't think Yuki was gassing. I think he fully believes that, and I think we saw enough. Honestly, I think in Suzuka, a track Yuki knows, I think he was close enough to Max in some of those practice sessions to be like, okay, there's something here. There's definitely something here. It's not coming on quickly at all, but I think Yuki will get the rest of the year to settle in, bed in, understand this car more, and I think they'll give him 26 as well. I think it will be Yuki and Max in 26 in that Red Bull. Different car. It's going to feel different. It's not going to be the same. Yes, I've always been on the nose across regulation periods, but I think that Yuki's worth a punt in 26. And Red Bull have to make a car that's more compliant, because they can't rely on Max being in that car forever. And if Max is to leave, whether it's Aston, whether it's Mercedes, whether it's somewhere else, whether it's, you know, goes to WEC, takes a year off, sabbatical, whatever, right now he's the only person who can drive that car in F1. And I really don't, honestly, I don't even, just because Max has grown with that team over so many years. So as Max has grown and got experience, he's only ever driven that Red Bull apart from his first year at Toro Rosso. So as that car has evolved and changed and grown, so has he along with that car, you know. So his style will inherently have grown and changed and morphed with that car. So I don't think anyone's jumping in and getting anywhere close to Max, not even an Alonso or a Leclerc or a Hamilton or anyone. I really don't think that. Like, I just think Max is so in tune with that, with what that car needs. But Red Bull can't afford for that to be a thing in the future, because they can't rely on Max being there forever. Simple as. Thank you, Greg, for the super chat. First time catching one of these live. My insomnia is allowing it. Well, Greg, tips for insomnia. Sometimes for me, what helps is I get one of those little nose things, because it's to help stop you snoring. But actually, I've found I don't use them all the time. But sometimes when I'm feeling a bit stuffy, and you kind of stick it on your nose and it opens up your nose, and then you can breathe more. It's like you're breathing in HD. It's like 4K oxygen. It's great. That kind of helps for me. So maybe worth a try. But insomnia is no fun, Greg, because I've always been I've never had a good relationship with sleep. So I hope you sort that out, mate. And thank you, Gladiator, as well. Serious question. Colapinto's been back for one race, and already we've had racist abuse at Sonoda, plus more death threats at Doohan. When does his fan base start becoming a liability for teams a la Canapino in Indy? Yeah, so obviously, if you haven't seen Doohan, Jack Doohan put out some stories about the abuse that he's been getting, the online abuse, and like messages about his family, to his family, stuff like that. Horrible. And then obviously Yuki also I didn't actually, because I missed that in practice. Didn't Colapinto and Yuki have some kind of tiff on track, relatively minor, and then basically Yuki was getting a bunch of abuse, a bunch of racist abuse, on his socials after the fact. And you referenced Canapino Gladiator because we saw in IndyCar, was it with Grosjean, wasn't it? And then Porsche, I want to say, as well, later on, where like the team had to put out statements because they'd had a run-in with Canapino, Argentinian driver, and there'd been a pile-on from. I'll say it before I say it again. It is, as much as it feels like a majority, it is, of course, it's a minority of Colapinto fans, but the problem is because there's so many super passionate Argentinian fans that if it's, let's say it's 1-2%, but when that's 1-2% of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, versus 1-2% of, you know, a few thousand, you do the numbers, right? And it's it's really shit to see. I don't usually swear, but it's yeah, I think it's quite appropriate. Obviously Alpine put out a statement. Colapinto has put out his own statement about it. We talked about this before, you know, a driver's responsibility for the actions of their fan base. And in this instance, it's the actions of, you know, Yuki getting racist abuse, Jack getting death threats and stuff like that. And you know, to deny this isn't a problem that has, you know, there is a correlation, right? It is, there absolutely is a correlation that this has only, I mean, it happens. Unfortunately, it happens across different motorsports. It happens across different, you know, not even just motorsports, right? Sport. People take it way too seriously. And it's not all Argentinian fans. Of course it's not. But it's enough for it to be a problem where teams are putting out statements, drivers are getting harassed. Like, and I don't know what the solution is, you know? I really don't. I because in the past, you know, I've kind of gone back and forth on this because I remember in 2021, obviously, when the Max Lewis stuff was at its highest, and whether it's after Silverstone, or whether it's after Monza, you know, there was a lot of, you know, things got really personal, things got really spiteful online, and the only thing I can honestly think that any of these sports people can do is try and reach out to that fraction of their fan base and just appeal to them and just be like, look, you're claiming to represent me, yet you're acting like a scumbag on the internet and saying these horrible things, racist things, whatever it is. But even then, is that just like a fool's errand? Is that actually going to change anything? Like, I don't know. It's really sad. And the problem is as well, like, Yuki, you know, Jack, whoever's on the receiving end, it's horrible. And for Jack to have to go out and put out a statement, you know, that I think that doesn't happen unless it's been pretty horrible, right, and pretty bad and very targeted. And I don't think Yuki put out a statement, did he? But it was like on his Instagram post or something. And because I remember I looked at Yuki's latest post and it was flooded with really positive comments at the top, which is nice to kind of drown out the absolute scumbags. It's, I don't know. I just don't know the solution. And even, to be honest, like, I also, in all of it, I feel for Colapinto because he's this young lad who's chased, and is sure his Argentinian backing has helped him. Of course it has. And the majority of Argentinian fans aren't sending abuse to Yuki Tsunoda and Jack Doohan and all these other people. They're not doing that. So it's like, it feels. I feel for Colapinto as well that this kind of. It's like the. It's the. What's the word I'm looking for? It's the knock-on of not the knock-on effect. It's a side effect of all of it that's rubbish, because Colapinto is a great lad. He seems like a super nice, down to earth, very charismatic character, very quick, and I think with time he will grow and develop and improve. But yeah, can you stop the keyboard warriors? Maybe you can't. I don't know. It's tough, and it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, and then obviously there was Argentinian media jumping on that Formula Fakers post, which I'm sure wasn't done with any intention, but of any negative intention. But yeah, I mean that really took some. That kind of went on off and added to it all. So yeah, I don't have the answer. But yeah. Anyway, I think now's a good time to wrap. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate you all taking the time. Thank you to everyone in the live chat. Fill in the blank, Safari, 6AR. Gladiator Night, particularly upsetting as a Jack fan who just wanted to enjoy his rookie year. Instead, he's getting threats even after he got dropped. Yeah, I mean, mate, it's awful. And it's like, what is the solution? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. It's rubbish for Jack. It's rubbish for Yuki. It's rubbish for Franco. Because, like, it's unfair to put the responsibility on Franco. I do think him putting a statement out maybe would help, but I don't know if it would either. Maybe that would just, oh yeah, we're just going to do it more because then Franco will interact with us, because you just get these people who just, I don't know. It's a hard one, but yeah. Appreciate you all taking the time. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.